Walt Disney's Peter Pan. The Darling family lived in a corner house in London on a quiet street in Bloomsbury. It was here that Peter Pan would visit because there were people in the house who believed in him. While Mrs. and Mr. Darling got ready for a party, their sons John and Michael were pretending to be Peter Pan and Captain Hook. The boys crossed play swords, laughing and swinging. Their older sister Wendy, who had told them stories about Peter Pan, giggled as she watched them grapple and play. At bedtime, Miss Darling tucked in her children, and as she went to shut the window, Wendy asked her to not lock it, for Peter Pan might visit. Wendy was right. Peter Pan flew onto the Darlings' rooftop with his pixie friend Tinker Bell. Later that night, on a previous visit, he had left his shadow and he needed to bring it home. Peter found his shadow, but it didn't want to go home yet. It started flying all around the room, waking up Wendy. "Oh, Peter, I'm so glad you came back tonight," Wendy said. Threading her needle, Wendy helped Peter Pan by sewing his shadow back on. "It's good you came tonight. I have to grow up tomorrow," Wendy told Peter. "Grow up?" shouted Peter Pan. "But that means no more stories." "No, I won't have it." "Come on, we're going to Neverland. You'll never grow up there," said Peter. All the commotion woke up John and Michael, who were amazed that Peter Pan was in their room. "How do we get to Neverland?" Wendy asked. "Fly, of course." "All you need is a wonderful thought," said Peter. "Oh, and dust." Peter grabbed Tink and shook her, laughing as he sprinkled them with pixie dust. In no time, Wendy, John, and Michael followed Peter Pan and Tinker Bell out the nursery window and into the night sky. They swooped over London's rooftops, past Westminster and Big Ben, and up into the clouds. "There it is, Wendy," Peter shouted. "Second star to the right, and then straight on till morning." At last they could see Neverland. "Look, John," cried Wendy, "Mermaid Lagoon." "There's the pirate ship and its crew," added Michael. "It's just as you told us, Wendy." On the pirate ship stood Captain Hook. He had gotten his name because he had a hook where his hand used to be. Peter Pan had been responsible for the missing hand, so Hook wanted revenge. "If only I could find Peter Pan's hideout, I'd trap him," he said to his first mate, Sneak. Hook had another enemy too, the crocodile. They always knew when the croc was coming by the tick-tock sound he made from an old clock he had swallowed. The sight of him still made Hook panic. "Please don't let him get me, Smee," the captain cried. Smee shooed the crocodile away. There was a shout from the lookout. "Peter Pan ahoy!" Ordering his men to load the cannon, Hook fired away. "Quick, Tink," shouted Peter as the cannonballs flew by. "Take Wendy and the boys to the island. I'll stay here and distract the pirates." Tinker Bell took off at once, but she purposely flew too fast, leaving the others far behind. Peter Pan had ignored her since Wendy came along. Tink didn't like it one bit, and now she had a plan. Flying into an opening in the tree where the Lost Boys lived with Peter, she told the boys Peter said there was a terrible Wendy bird headed their way and they were to shoot it down. The Lost Boys hurried from their hideout and flung rocks in the air, sending Wendy tumbling from the sky. Luckily, Peter Pan arrived just in time to catch her. Peter scolded Lost Boys. "I bring you a mother to tell you stories, and you shoot her down." The boys told him what Tink had said. "Tinker Bell," said Peter, "you could have killed Wendy. I hereby banish you forever." "Please," begged Wendy, "not forever." "For a week, then," declared Peter. "Come on, Wendy. I'll show you the island." Peter took Wendy to meet the mermaids at the Mermaid Lagoon while John and Michael headed off to explore the forest. Back at Mermaid Lagoon, Peter spotted Hook and Smee rowing in a small boat. Peter's friend, Tiger Lily, was tied up in the back. Peter and Wendy flew to School Rock and overheard Hook. "You tell me the hiding place of Peter Pan and I shall set you free," the captain snarled. But Tiger Lily refused to give Peter Pan away. Suddenly, Peter flew into view. Hook drew his sword and lunged, but Peter was too quick, dodging every jab of Hook's sword. They fought to the edge of the cliff. Wendy could barely watch. "I've got you this time, Pan," Hook cried. Hook raced after Peter, but the cliff ended abruptly. Peter floated in the air as Hook fell. "I say, Captain," said Peter, "do you hear something?" Hook did hear a familiar sound, the tick-tock of the crocodile. He screamed as Smee rowed over to help Hook. Peter Pan and Wendy saved Tiger Lily. Tiger Lily's father was so happy to see her safe. But back on his pirate ship, Captain Hook wasn't done plotting. He held Tinkerbell captive and convinced her to give him the location of Peter Pan's hideout in exchange for getting rid of Wendy. Once he had the location, he locked poor Tink back up. That night, Captain Hook and Smee led the pirates straight to Peter's hideout. Then they prepared for their attack. Inside, Wendy was singing about the wonders of having a real mother. Her song made John and Michael homesick. Even the Lost Boys wanted to go to London. "Go back and grow up," Peter said. "But once you're grown up, you can never come back." Wendy said goodbye to Peter, then followed the boys out of the hideout, only to discover the pirates were waiting for her. "All right, men, take them away," ordered Captain Hook, who still had a package to drop off. The pirates carried the children aboard Hook's ship and tied them to the mast. Hook gave the children a choice. They could either join his crew or walk the plank. Wendy refused to join. "Peter Pan will save us," she said. Hook just laughed. "We left a present for Peter, signed by his darling Wendy. When he opens it, Peter Pan will be blasted out of Neverland forever," he said. Tinkerbell was still on Hook's ship, locked up in the lantern, and she heard the captain's every word. Desperate, Tink broke free. She flew as fast as she could to get to Peter in time and save him. Back at the hideout, Peter Pan was untying the bow on the package when Tinkerbell flew in. Tinkerbell tried to pull the package away. "Stop that!" yelled Peter. An explosion sounded far away, and aftershocks suddenly rocked the pirate ship. Where Wendy and the boys stood, Hook lowered his hat and said, "There goes a worthy opponent." Wendy glared at him and stood strong. "We will never join your crew." "As you wish," Hook said. "Ladies first, my dear." With a gulp, Wendy stepped off the plank and straight into the arms of Peter Pan. Tink had gotten to him in time. After flying Wendy to the crow's nest, Peter Pan shouted to the captain, "This time you've gone too far." Hook couldn't believe his eyes. He drew his sword as Peter flew toward him. While Peter fought bravely, he freed the boys who joined his fight. Captain Hook and Peter Pan fought and fought until Peter had Hook's back against the ropes. Hook tried to trick Peter and grabbed him with his hook, but the idea backfired. Instead, the pirate's hook slipped, and he went tumbling into the sea right into the jaws of the crocodile. Hook yelled for his first mate, but Smee and the other pirates were already fleeing in a rowboat. Hook swam after them desperately, the crocodile nipping at his heels. The children cheered. "Hooray for Captain Pan," they shouted. "All right, you swabs," said Peter Pan to Wendy and the boys. We're casting off." "Where are we sailing?" asked Wendy. "To London," Peter said. "Hoist the anchor," Pixie Dust cried Peter to his crew. Tinker Bell flew around the ship, sprinkling her magic dust as she went. Then up, up, up the ship flew, glittering with a golden glow. Back at home, Miss Darling found Wendy asleep by the window. As Wendy told her about Neverland, Miss Darling called for her husband. "What is it now, Mary?" he asked, then jumped in the night sky. There was a ship made of clouds. "You know, I have the oddest feeling I've seen that ship before." The end.